Hello and welcome. So, this episode kind of reminded me of Bleach with all these hashira, but before I get into that, let's start this review of episode 9. So, obviously, with this episode, we were introduced to the hashira, or the pillars. Now, let me just restate what I opened with, which was this reminded me of Bleach. Now, ever since Bleach, or at least Bleach made it really popular, there's been a trend in shonen, and I wouldn't go so far as to call it a trope, but there's been a trend in shonen where whenever there's teams or organizations that the main character joins, there's always captains at the top who are very quirky. We see it in Bleach, we more or less see it in Fairy Tail with the different guilds and all their different quirks, and then most recently, we see it with Black Clover. Now, I'm going to contrast with Black Clover, and I don't want to get into this too much, but I think it's important. With Black Clover, I think why people are so hesitant at the beginning is because you have so many characters thrown in your face, and what happens is you see their quirks, but not all the characters are able to go beyond those quirks. Now, the Hashira, at least so far, I'm not worried with that because with Kimetsu no Yaiba, these characters are all very specialized and we can see that with their breathing techniques. But although they're specialized, they don't allow themselves to be defined by their quirks. Zenitsu, Inosuke, Tanjiro, all of the characters are able to have unique personalities and at the same time manage to be relatable. So just to reiterate, it's not that I think these characters are like the captains from Bleach so much as it rings to this trend of here's an organization and here's all the quirky characters at the top. Now, to speak to that, just real quick, I want to offer my thoughts on each character. The first one we get introduced to in this episode was Rengoku, and he kind of reminds me of like a Kirishima type character, like from My Hero Academia, where his shtick is I'm going to be the loudest character in every scene, and I don't dislike that. Again, it's a trope, but at least so far, it doesn't seem lazy. And I like Rengoku. Obviously, I pick Charmander and all the fire starters in Pokemon games, so whenever I see a fire character, I'm immediately drawn to them. And then we have the Hashira Uzui, and I definitely don't dislike him, but even after watching the episode a few times, I don't know who he really connects to specifically in other shows, other than he has the trait of constantly saying flamboyant. So I really like his design, but there's nothing other than his design and his quirk that really strike me about him. Next we have Kanroji, the love pillar, which again, other than her quirk, I didn't really think much of her. I thought her bits in this episode were cute and they did a good job of like relieving the tense mood of the scenes. But other than that, I mean, she did really remind me of Unohana from Bleach, the healing captain, because they almost have the exact same haircut. Although I will say, and some people might attack me on this, but I don't know why, but if her hair was just pink, I would really like it. But pink and green, like grassy green, I don't know. If someone could make the argument, like with color theory or just some sort of artistic argument, maybe I could be persuaded, but pink and green, just not my thing. Next we have Himejima, the stone pillar, which I don't know what to think of him at first. He's actually, in my opinion, he's one of my favorite designs out of the bunch, which is probably an unpopular opinion, and I have no good reason. I just like his design a lot. But I think he reminds me of Robin in the sense that Robin from One Piece is notorious for saying really grim things in like a completely normal conversation. And it seems like that's what Himajima does is they'll be having a completely normal conversation and he'll be like, "Ugh, that's so sad. Maybe we should just end your life now." And while it's rather grim, again, it's like Robin, where it's just in context, it's funny. Then we have Tokito, the Mist Pillar, which, like a lot of people who are just watching the anime like me, I don't really know what to think of him. He doesn't have a bad design, but compared to the others, he has a really strange design and it's really out of left field. And I don't know. I definitely don't dislike him, but he's definitely just not my favorite. And then we have probably my favorite design from the pillars, Obanai, the serpent pillar, which I really like him for the reason that he seems like, and I could be terribly wrong, he could just be cynical, but he seems like the more rational of the pillars. Granted, Gyu seems pretty, or he doesn't seem, he is very calm and collected, but Obanai seems like the one to sort of like think things through more or less. But I like his design. I like that his eyes are two different colors. It kind of reminds me of Naruto. But I also like the white serpent because it's reminiscent of Sekiro and the white serpents in that game, which, if you're not familiar, tie into Japanese mythology, which I'm not an expert on, but I will just leave it at this. If the connection I'm making is there, Obanai has potential for some pretty substantial character development or deeper meaning. So that's probably why I'm really interested in him. But simply put, he's a serpent guy. Like, no more needs to be said. That's just pretty cool in of itself. And before we get into the last hashira, I want to talk about the scene where Tanjiro is on trial before we see Nezuko. And I keep making this connection to Bleach, but we're seeing this connection to other anime similar to this, where the main character didn't really choose to join the organization himself, but he was almost left with no other choice. And we can see that in Bleach, where he has to go to the Shinigami and he has to prove himself because he didn't really go out of his way to become a Shinigami. He sort of found himself becoming one. And we see that with Tanjiro, where he didn't go out of his way to become a demon slayer, in so much as his family got killed by a demon. So if he wants to help his sister, he really doesn't have a choice. And now, like with Bleach like with Ichigo in Bleach, we see Tanjiro having to take a break from all the action, sit in front of his superiors, and say, okay, you have a really strange situation, so we need to hear this out. Which is perfectly reasonable. Granted, he has a demon with him, and with the exception of Shinobu, which I'm not even going to get into her because, again, she flip-flopped and now all of a sudden she's the patient one, where in the last episode, she just wanted to kill Nezuko. So I'm not even going to get into that, but I'm just done with Shinobu. I don't even care what she does anymore. But we see Tanjiro having to take a step back and answer another test, another trial for why does he get to be special? Why does he, or what qualifies him as a hero? And not only is this uh, investigation for the pillars, but it's another questioning and investigation for the audience, because although we really like Tanjiro, we do want to see this qualifying asset of what makes him a good hero. But then we have the scene where we're introduced to the wind pillar, Sanemi. Now, while he's a really cool character, I think where a lot of people might get caught off guard is kind of like with Shinobu, where she seemed really cool, but she does this flip-flopping thing where she's like, oh, I'm going to be friends with the demons. Oh, now I want to kill all the demons. It might be off-putting that Sanemi is being such a jerk to Nezuko, but what I'm sensing is there's going to be like a hashtag tragic backstory where we're going to see that Sanemi has this really tragic experience with how his family or his friends were all killed, and he found himself, like Tanjiro, connection to the main character, yada yada yada. We're going to see that sympathy with Sanemi, which is why I think this initial reaction to his character of him being really intense and kind of a jerk is important. But I'm really looking forward to where his character goes, because we see his capacity for sophistication when he's in front of the master and all of a sudden his character changes and he's very formal. And while I don't think being formal is like virtuous in of itself, I think it shows that Sanemi has the potential for sophistication, or rather deeper meaning and a deeper personality. So I'm really excited to see where his character goes. But with Sanemi, we have the test with Nezuko. Now, what I really liked about this was that Nezuko has been kind of a paragon, sort of, in the sense that ever since Tanjiro's been done training with Urokodaki, Nezuko's been pretty tame. Meaning, like, she hasn't really been trying to eat anyone. And what I liked about this was when she has human blood, we see that this is her moment of weakness, which we don't really get to see a moment of weakness with Nezuko because she's a demon. So, although, again, it's a, like, really cruel thing to do to Tanjiro, who's tied up, and to Nezuko, who is in a really tough situation, I'm really excited to see how this trial by blood between Sanemi and Nezuko goes down in the next episode. And of course, it would be silly of me to not end this review without talking about the master. Now, they use a certain Japanese word to call the master, which I'm not familiar with, so I'm just going to call him the master. I'm sure there's the proper word that they use that has a more idiosyncratic meaning, but I'm just going to call him the master. Now, he's really mysterious. Big shocker, he's mysterious. I get that. But, like, he's genuinely mysterious because he does seem like a Julius from Black Clover, where he's like the figure at the top of everything who somehow finds a way to take an interest in the main character and all the lowly figures. So in that sense, he's typical, but I don't know what to expect of him. Other than that, I think what we'll see, just based on what we saw from him in this episode, is that there's going to be a connection between him and Tanjiro, where what binds them together and where Tanjiro sees a connection in the master is their capacity for kindness. Because although the master seemed very calm, it was a different calm from Gyu, who was always very intense. He just seemed very kind and warm and at peace. So, although I don't know really what to expect of him, I really like his design, and I'm really, really curious to see how his character gets fleshed out. But those are my thoughts on episode 22. If you enjoyed what I had to say in this video, make sure you like it. If you're looking forward to my future reviews, or if you'd like to check out my other videos, make sure you subscribe. If you're just interested in what I have to say in general, make sure you follow me on Twitter because I do try to be very active, and I hope to hear from you soon.